Hello and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host Bryan. We're going to wrap up this week with some brand new music. This one coming at us from Cell Press, who I'm not aware of at all prior to this week. We're going to be checking out a track from them called Things They Do in France. It is a lyric video. Let's dive in and see what Cell Press is bringing to the table today. That whole Tom idea is bonkers. It feels like there's too many notes in there. I don't know what to make of it yet. What is the structure to this? There isn't even a chance of like, I just heard something cool, I'm gonna point it out next loop, because there's just no pattern to any of this. Going from these balanced chords to that dissonant, that is bonkers. Just total opposite extremities on the harmonic scale. Bringing in some strong groove here. Like right there, I think we just had an extra beat I wasn't expecting. That was something. All right. I don't know what to make. Let's start with the beginning. The drums, the bass kicks and the toms and the double bass kicks and the tom rolls. I don't know what time signature we were in, and it's kind of difficult for me to really figure it out because, as I mentioned, I feel like there were too many notes there to begin with. It feels like there's this pocket in like the middle, like about the 60% way through the passage. And it's like time gets distorted, and the drummer throws in an extra roll of like four tom hits that don't feel like they can naturally fit there, and yet they do, and it feels bizarre to me. I really wish I knew what the time signature was, and more importantly, the phrasing. I feel like that might be more important. I just said it was more important. Because a time signature could well be in constant flux. It could actually just be 4/4. Meshuggah is really great at making these sections that are just bonkers time feels, but like, yeah, it's written in 4/4. The same thing could be happening here. The whole song could be in 4/4, and I'm just, because of the phrasing, it feels odd. But I just, right from the start, they pulled the rug out from under me. Figure this one out, man. It feels so antagonistic to me personally, the very beginning of that track. And from there, it just keeps going down in this direction. Every section feels more chaotic and less restrained than the last. There were segments in there when I had no idea what time signature we were even in, much less what the phrasing was. The accent points seemed to be random. The length of a phrase was random. I would count out at 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. When is this idea gonna end? And then the next phrase would be like 3 beats long. And so, even just going off of phrasing, I never quite found a pattern. I eventually reached the point where I was just trying to figure out how many beats an entire idea is. Not the individual riffs that make it up, but I could kind of hear a point where where the song would loop back to a riff I had heard before. I'm like, okay, the one that comes after it's this one, the one that comes. Okay, so I got a flow for this, right? A section is about 15 to 20 seconds. How many beats are in that? I'd get lost in there. It's just they continue to throw wrenches in all sorts of rhythmic ways into this track, and 4.5 minutes later, I couldn't tell you what structure the song is in, what time signature it has. It all just completely eludes me. The song does what it wants when it wants. It does have patterns. I glimpsed them in the periphery of my vision, but I never got to see them fully. I'd love to take a moment to just play the song with some pen and paper and write down what I'm hearing so I'm not trying to memorize everything. Plus, a second time through would be very helpful on that, since I kind of have an understanding of what I'm in for now, at least. Musically, the song is lightly riff based but uses a lot of chords in the guitar riffage. There are some sections that are more melodic, focusing on single notes and more specifically series of single notes rather than these chugging single chords that we get through, well, predominantly even the end. We heard a lot of this. But I found it really interesting in what I suspect was probably the chorus, since we heard this section multiple times, was these heavy chords giving us quarter notes. Uh, I don't know that for a fact, but generally these hits, boom, 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 and these like big chords came in on what felt like downbeats to me. So if we were in something 4, 3, 4, 4, 4, 5, 4, these would be quarter notes. If we were in like 6, 8, 9, 8, these are going to be eighth notes. That's what the bottom number dictates. I'll have to explain that, how to read time signatures one day. The top number is how many beats are in the bar, though. That's not important for this discussion right now. Regardless, you're getting these heavy equidistant chords, and they were very stable. I'd say if they weren't power chords, they were very close to power chords. Um, Basically, no dissonance or instability at all in them. And then we would have like 8 or 9 or 10 of these or something, and then a series of like 20 quicker, like eighth notes where both guitars are just doing the most bonkerest uh, distance between notes, intervals, note intervals, and just creating like these wild, dissonant, almost to me sounding chromatic at times, dyads. Just a series of random notes played by both the guitars, and it's so wild to hear the song swing from this hyper chordal stability into this harmonic instability, and then swing right back. We get those very powerful chords again. The song plays around with this, often giving us extended segments of harmonic stability and then chucking in some quick moments of dissonance, of harmonic instability. I don't know what to make of it. It's just a pattern I saw, and it threw me for a loop because we went so long of just, it's heavy, but it's consonant, right? I can't make much sense of it rhythmically, but the chords, the atmosphere, the vocal style, all of it feels really connective to me. It's some type of metal-esque thing, right? Maybe hardcore, not metal. Yeah, it's punkier, isn't it? Wait, is this post-hardcore? I'll have to come back to that question. Uh, there's so much stability in it, though, and I kind of figured that was going to be what it was, and then just, I don't know, like a minute and a half into the song, they're like, actually, we got some dissonance for you, bruh. And yeah, from that point on, just kind of threw me off. I had no idea what to expect, when to expect, what to expect. No expectations anymore. Every time I thought I knew what was going on, they reassured me I did not. Oh, another bonkers thing, too. Speaking about setting up expectations and subverting them, the song starts with, like I mentioned, a really crazy drum idea. And then from that point on, the drums chill out quite a bit. I really thought we were going to hear some wilder drum parts. And yeah, there are some really cool fills in here, little pockets of moments where the drummer showed off some nice technical chops. But for the most part, the drums are very metronomic. It's chilling in the background, laying down the beat, letting everybody else be wild. And I think that's necessary given how structurally wild this track is to have that rhythmic stability built into it. But it's still one of those things, just like I was expecting more technicality out of the drums, and they didn't quite deliver on that. And I feel like that's super, it has nothing to do with skill. The drummer showcased he's a time wizard in the first 20 seconds of the song, and then deliberately says, "You haven't even seen my true power yet, and you don't deserve it." And just plays like rather vanilla stuff within the oddities of the time signature and phrasing for the rest of the song. It's it is certainly a choice, and I respect it. Just such a wild decision. Beyond that, I mean that wraps up my experience right here. I had no idea what was happening at the beginning. The drums threw me for a loop. Rhythmically, I was constantly being shown that I have no idea what's going on. And then everything else was a lot of expected ideas within unexpected phrasings. Like the composition itself, when we look at like how notes move, melodic flow, vocal deliveries, vocal phrasings, all of this fits pretty much what I would expect given what we heard in the opening minute or so of the track. I kind of had an idea of what the band would be aiming for, and they absolutely landed that. It's the metric stuff that really elevates this to the complexities that it is. It's uh it's a conventional song with unconventional phrasing, and that makes it very interesting to my ears because it's progressive in one very specific razor-honed way. And so it can be very strange while exceptionally familiar. And that wraps up my whole experience with this. Just quickly go back to that question I posed earlier. Is this post-hardcore? I'm curious what people think. I don't know. The album comes out later this year. The vinyl's up for pre-order. When I look for lyrics, I'm going to go on Rate Your Music and see what they have it listed as. But being that it's a small band with an album that isn't out yet, I don't know I'm going to be able to find a genre for it. But it feels post-hardcore-y. In fact, it feels hardcore-ish, but like in ways that aren't punky, which is sort of what post-hardcore is all about. But it doesn't have the refined modern take of what post-hardcore sounds like today, minus the original intentions of taking the hardcore sound and just taking it in so many different directions, seeing where you can go with it. And much like post-rock, post-metal, post pretty much anything, what started out as an adventurous concept eventually gets honed down into a specific sound in subsequent ways. The first wave is exploration, it's experimentation, and eventually further down the road you get to the sound of the genre. And so this is kind of post-hardcore in the original intent. I can feel hardcore here, but it's not a hardcore track at all. It takes it in very interesting directions. And it gives it a very strong, like modern prog metal twist where it's hyper focused on maybe not even just prog metal, but mathier side of things. Mathcore. Yeah, actually, this is like hardcore plus mathcore mixed. That's where I feel like this is. And so there are parts to it that sound familiar to me, just on harmonic ideas. But then it's also like, what if we took a post-hardcore song and then it was covered by Car Bomb? And that's what this song feels like to me. So I guess let's check out some lyrics. Well, no lyrics, but no genre either. Rate Your Music doesn't have a genre for them other than noise rock. Their previous album was actually a split between four bands. So that album has sludge metal, grindcore, and emo violence as its genres, but I don't really think any of those relate to what we just listened to. I did find the Bandcamp page though. Well, technically for the record label, but the page for this album. It says that Cages will be a collection of songs that stitch together genre devices from noise rock, metal, hardcore, sludge, and grind. Sonically abrasive but technically proficient, the band wields brains and brawn in equal measure. I can agree with that. It is sonically abrasive, but it's in a measured way, something that's calculated. It's brains and brawn. I kind of dig that. One other thing I totally forgot to talk about was the ending, which was like this massive staged retardando through segments of the time feel, but like, again, no pattern to it. We slowed down And then we would sometimes half time it and then return back to the full time and then slow down. And like there's no pattern to it. It was just this constantly fluctuating time feel. And I don't know what to make of it, but I certainly needed to bring it up because it just shows their metric skills on another level. It's not a constantly fluctuating phrasing or time signature. Even the tempo, I think, is rather solid through a majority of it. We only moved through 3 or 4 tempos there, but they change up the rhythmic pacing of the section so many times in so many different ways that it feels like that section is constantly in flux. It's always slowing down or speeding up or but honestly it's not. The tempo doesn't change much at all. I'm going to have to keep an eye on this group. I didn't see when this album comes out. It just says 2024. Do we have a date? March 8th. I don't know that I liked this song. It is the last track on the album, though. But I think I have to check this out when it comes out because I am enamored by their ability to write like this. Those are my thoughts on things they do in France from Cell Press. What are yours? Did you enjoy this? Is there anything that stood out to you that maybe I didn't talk about? Anything you'd like to add on to the conversation or correct me on if I was incorrect about it? Let me know in the comments section. Above that, in the description box, you'll find a link to Linktree. It takes you to this menu. You can find links to my music, ways to support the channel, a link to the Discord server, and more. You can also find links to submit special selections in the description right next to the Linktree link. Above that, if you could, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. I greatly appreciate all 3 of those. That wraps it up for this week. The Album of the Year video will be tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We have an album review at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time tomorrow evening. Sunday, there is no live stream in the morning. Oh, there's no live stream at all, but... and then Monday, we get back to the regular reactions with next week's theme, whatever that is. I think it's indie rock. Anyways, until next time, remember to be critical and not cynical of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening, whenever you choose to watch my videos.